Hello everybody, how are you doing? And welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while that I've uploaded any video. That's because I was not very well for the past few days, but now I'm all good. So we will be continuing with our videos. And in air regulations, only two topics are left. One will be covered in today's video. Actually, I am dividing today's video into two parts because the video is very long. So you can see the same topic, human performances, in two different videos. And the last video for the air regulations will be coming up very soon, definitely. And I think the topic left is the procedures of air navigations. Yeah. So just rally behind me and we will be going through all the topics, and we will cover today's topic first, which is the human performances and limitations. So let's get started. It is very important to learn about the human body and at least its basic functionings, because it is considered that human error is the major cause of the accidents in aviation. So it is considered over 73% of the accidents occurring is only due to human errors. So that is why it is a very big number. So a lot of efforts have been made in the past, and they are continuously being made now also to reduce the human error as much as possible. And they've been successful in it also. Okay. So, the flight can be divided into different phases: the climb phase, cruise and landing phase. So it is considered that during the takeoff phase and in the landing phase only most accidents occur. Let me show you a graph. Check this graph out. So flight time only 2% here, but the major accident cause is during the takeoff. This is the takeoff phase, and then this is in the cruise phase, which is about 83% of the flight time, but the amount of accidents occurring in this area is comparatively very less. And then it goes here during the touchdown, it boosts up to 24.1%. You don't need to remember these percentages, just remember that at which phases the accidents occur. Now you must be familiar with the different layers of atmosphere. Troposphere is the one which is from the surface of the earth to 36,000 feet. Above that is stratosphere. Above that is mesosphere, thermosphere, exosphere, right? So composition of gases, lot of gases exists in the atmosphere. 78.084% of nitrogen of the atmospheric gas consists of nitrogen. These numbers are quite important. I know you must have read it in your school days as well, so just remember it again, revise it. Oxygen 20.95%, carbon dioxide is 0.036%, ozone forms very little amount which is 0.000004%, water vapor makes up to 1 to 4% of the total atmospheric gases. Okay. Also there are a lot of other gases, inert gases are there, that again adds up to around 80% of it, and then around 20%, you can say 20 to 21%, it is oxygen, and carbon dioxide 0.036%. Okay. Now let's talk about the variation of pressure and temperature with altitude. Okay, as you might know that the temperature as we go upwards, it decreases up to a certain level, and from there it becomes constant considering some standard conditions. And similarly the pressure also decreases as we go up. So the temperature and pressure both decreases as the altitude increases. Okay. Now ISA is known as the International Standard Atmosphere. So considering all the standard conditions, the pressure at the mean sea level is considered to be 1013 to 0.25 hectopascal, or if you are using this inch of mercury, then it is 29.92. Temperature reduces at 1.98 degrees Celsius per 1000 feet and up to 36,090 feet, and thereafter it is constant minus 56.5 degrees. This is important stuff, you might want to remember it. Okay. Then Dalton's law, you must have studied in the school physics. Partial pressures describe the distribution of certain gases in the mixture, and the Dalton's law, it states that total pressure of a mixture of gas is equal to the sum of the partial pressure of the gases individually. Okay, that is only you need to remember in the Dalton's law, and rest of it is not much important. Coming to the density, okay, density at 36,000 feet is 1/3 of the density at the sea level. Supplementary oxygen is needed at altitude greater than 10,000 feet. Okay, so coming up to the next topic, you can see a drawing here. This is an earth, so it doesn't look like it, but consider it as an earth. So well, from the surface of the earth to around 10,000 or 12,000 feet, you can consider it as the physiological zone. PZ stands for that. So in this, no supplementary oxygen or anything is required, so it is quite comfortable, normal condition. Above that, up to 50,000 feet here, it is known as physiological deficient zone. Okay, so in this area you may feel something abnormal, a little bit like middle ear and sinus blockage. You know, you might feel that your breath is not coming properly. Dizziness and headache are some of the effects that can be seen in your body. Above that, if you're going above 50,000 feet up to 120 nautical miles, this area is known as partial space equivalent zone. In this area, sealed cabins are a must because the pressure outside becomes very less and it is not normal for the normal human functioning, body functioning. So that is why the breath is not coming properly, you know. That is why you will definitely need supplementary oxygen, and if hypoxia occurs, then 100% oxygen is not it's not just the only thing that can be done, you know. Much more medical assistance might be needed, so you need to descend down to much lower altitude. And then there can be, okay, yeah, one important thing, at this area, you know, around 63,000 feet, your blood and the body fuel starts to boil up. All right. Above 120 nautical miles, it is total space equivalent zone. Fine. So one more thing, that critical threshold, it occurs at 22,000 feet. Okay, you might not want to remember that. At 22,000 feet, so this lies in this PDZ area, physiological deficient zone. Now we will be looking at different systems of the body. First we will be seeing the nervous system. Nervous system, well, I know all these things you already know, but just a quick review to all these things because it's given in the syllabus. Nervous system, brain, okay, first thing that comes into your mind, and also the spinal cords, the nerves, etc. And its function is to regulate all the activities that is going on in the body. Correct? So it can be divided into three different categories. First one is CNS, which is the central nervous system. It comprises of the brain, spinal cord and nerves. Okay. Next, peripheral nerve system. So peripheral nerve system, well, it connects the central nervous system to the organs and the muscles of the body. Okay. Last but not the least, automatic nervous system. So all the automatic things that is going on in the body, like your heartbeat, pumping of the heart, you know, blinking of the eye, that is not that you do voluntary, it is involuntary, right? It happens on its own. So all these things are done by the automatic nervous system. Now coming to the respiratory system. So the air we breathe, it is taken in by the nasal cavity, and then it goes down to the pharynx, larynx, trachea, and then gets divided into two bronchioles. Bronchial tree is there that is formed, and then at the end of these bronchial trees there are alveoli, which are the small balloon-like structures. They inflate and deflate when we inhale and exhale, right? So as we inhale, the size of the balloon, they grow up and they become much more swelled, and the diffusion then takes place from the alveoli, diffusion of gases from the alveoli to the pulmonary capillary, okay, the nerves to be precise, which contains the blood. So this diffusion takes place due to the difference in the concentration of gases, to be precise oxygen. So as we inhale, the oxygen concentration is more in the alveoli. So this to balance it out, the oxygen then is diffused to the other side of the alveoli membrane. So on the other side it is the pulmonary capillary. So as it goes inside the capillary, the blood is there, the hemoglobin inside the blood, they bind the oxygen, and then this blood is carried to all parts of the body. This is known as external respiration, and internal respiration is also known as tissue respiration. This is done when the blood diffuses its oxygen and to the tissue or any other organs of the body, and they diffuse the carbon dioxide, like in turn they diffuse the carbon dioxide to the blood, and then the blood is taken from that organ, and it comes back to the lungs. So this is the whole mechanism of breathing, diffusion of the gases. This is all what happens in the respiratory system. Now coming to the circulatory system. So in this, the main thing of focus is the heart, and then arteries and veins. Arteries carry the blood from the heart to the different parts of the body, and veins, they carry the blood from the other parts of the body and bring it back to the heart. Okay, so the cardiac output, which means that the amount of blood that the heart pumps in 1 minute. So the cardiac output is 5 liters per minute approximately. So talking about the arteries and veins once again. So arteries, they carry the oxygenated blood from the heart. The heart pumps that oxygenated blood to other parts of the body, and then the diffusion, etc., all those things takes place. After that diffusion is taken place, the oxygen is given to the other organs, and the carbon dioxide is taken, binded back to the blood, and that is carried back by the veins. That is the deoxygenated blood, which is carried back to the heart, right? Two terms, diastole and systole, are of importance. So systole is when the heart muscle contracts, right? And diastole is when the heart muscle relaxes. So the pressure is measured, that is measured in the BP, which we call blood pressure. That is the diastolic pressure and the systolic pressure only. So coming to the composition of the blood, it consists of plasma, WBCs and RBC. So major function of plasma, it is the fluid portion, right? And it contains all the nutrients, hormones, waste, etc., right? And WBC, they are the white corpuscles, we call it, and they are actually helpful for fighting against any bacteria or any other diseases. So they are actually the antibodies, right? And RBCs, they consist of hemoglobin, and they are helpful for carrying oxygen, right? They bind with the oxygen and carry it to different parts of the body. And platelets are, again, they are helpful for formation of clots, right? Majority of the blood is made up of the RBC. That is why you can see that the color of the blood is red, right? 90% of the formed elements. Formed elements does not include plasma, otherwise it includes all the things. So the 90% of the formed elements is the RBC, and they do not have nucleus. So that is why it becomes easy for it to carry oxygen along with it, right? That is all about the blood. And talking about the malfunctions of the circulatory system. So there's a term known as angina. So it is a condition where the heart is not having sufficient amount of oxygen. In that case, a heart attack is very common, okay? And in major cases, if the heart attack is there and the heart has to suffer a major damage, then the doctors may call it as myocardial infarction, okay? Heart attacks are mostly due to the blood clots in the coronary artery, and coronary artery brings oxygen and blood to the heart. So if there is a clot, if there is a blockage in that artery, then the proper movement of the blood is not possible, and because of that, oxygen and oxygen and blood is not coming in sufficient amount in the heart. That is why the heart suffers heart attack, okay? And it is also known as plaque sometimes when there is a deposition of some other substances on the arteries or any blood vessels. Then we call it as plaque on the walls of the artery, okay? So if there is any condition such as that, then various treatments are done, bypass surgery has to be done, etc. So as to put some a funnel like thing inside and open the artery from inside, so that proper movement of oxygen and blood is there. So that is a very dangerous situation. Heart attack is possible, and that you already know that heart attack mostly people die, but this is what it is. Now we will be talking about 2-3 very important things which is important as in general as well as for the exams point of view, okay? So hypoxia, hyperventilation, and carbon monoxide poisoning. So these are some important things that we'll be discussing now, so just pay attention. Hypoxia, this is a condition where the brain is not able to get sufficient amount of oxygen. So lack of O2 supply to the cerebral hemisphere. Cerebral hemisphere is considered as the front part of the brain, but hypoxia is just not limited to that area, it is for the whole brain. So it can be considered for the whole brain. While flying, it can happen due to breathing air at low pressure at high altitude. In mild cases, what are the symptoms? Inattentiveness, poor judgment, uncoordinated movements. In severe cases, you can go to coma, as well as brain death can happen if it persists for a long time. So it is a very severe condition. In case of hypoxia, if you're not able to get sufficient oxygen for the body, the whole body would not be able to function properly, right? So as you know, as we go up and up to higher altitudes, the oxygen level decreases. So in that case, supplementary oxygen is required to be there in the aircraft which is flying in the higher altitude. So that is why cabin pressurization that we call, which is very much necessary, so that the optimum amount of oxygen and proper suitable condition is maintained inside the aircraft, which is suitable for normal functioning of the body of passengers, as well as very important for pilots also. Fine. So in case any of this thing happens, then the only thing that the pilot needs to do is descend down to at least 10,000 feet. In that atmosphere, at least sufficient amount of oxygen is there, and so the normal breathing, etc., that can be carried out. Now, the types of hypoxia, very important. Hypoxic hypoxia, which is for the low oxygen level in the bloodstream. Then anemic hypoxia, when the RBC count decreases or hemoglobin does not function properly. Symptoms are breathlessness, fatigue, and chest pain. Next is the ischemic hypoxia, inadequate supply of blood flow to the body tissue. Okay, what are the symptoms? What happens? Constriction of blood vessels, oxygen therapy is not useful in case of ischemic hypoxia. So the best remedy for this is to correct the cause of hypoxia. Fine. And finally, histotoxic hypoxia, inability of the blood cells to use oxygen. This could be due to chemical poisoning, intoxication, etc. High blood alcohol level. So if your body consists of high blood alcohol level, then you are more prone to histotoxic hypoxia. Okay. This table is very important. So it tells the causes of hypoxia. What all are the causes? As I already told, drugs, okay, and alcohol, etc. Then you say that cardiac arrest, in which the oxygen is not coming properly, carbon monoxide, high altitudes, again oxygen is not coming, choking, compression of the trachea, disease that paralyzes the respiratory system. So you can see that all the causes that are mentioned here, tobacco smoker, these are related to the one in which the oxygen are not able to you are not able to take oxygen in sufficient amount, right? So the symptoms that you can see is, the symptoms are like night vision, euphoria, and then impaired judgment, headache, tingling in hands and feet, hyperventilation can also be a cause, we'll talk about it, muscular impairment, memory impairment, sensory loss, tunnel vision, cyanosis, which is the bluing of the body extremities, important, just keep this in mind, cyanosis is a symptom of hypoxia. And fornication, again important, that this is feeling of ants under the skin. So the question may come like, cyanosis, why is it caused? What is the symptom? If you see that there is a symptom of cyanosis, then what can be the cause of it? Okay, so you might be getting the options like hypoxia, hyperventilation, or carbon monoxide. So you have to choose that in which condition the symptoms of cyanosis, fornication are seen. So this is important, so just keep in mind cyanosis occurs due to hypoxia and fornication also. Then how to correct it? Only way to correct it is, first of all, that descend below 10,000 feet. Minimum safe altitude is if it is higher than 10,000 feet. Okay, this is all about hypoxia. Next, moving to carbon monoxide poisoning. Carbon monoxide is a product of incomplete combustion. It is an odorless, tasteless gas. So you might not know that carbon monoxide is being leaked out from somewhere. So it happens, but it is in very less quantity. So it can be avoided. But if it is coming up in large amounts, then this is very much dangerous. Binds with the hemoglobin binds with carbon monoxide 200 times more rapidly than oxygen. Exhaust gases from the piston engine, 9% of carbon monoxide is produced. So from the exhaust of the piston engine, 9% of carbon monoxide comes out. So proper care has to be taken that normal people are not exposed to carbon monoxide. Look at this table again, listing out the symptoms and what are the actions that has to be taken. So the symptoms are, initially there is inability to concentrate, headache, dizziness, nausea, impaired vision, lethargy, weakness, impaired judgment, personality change, impaired memory, Flushed cheeks and cherry red lips, convulsions. These two are important. Remember that. Flushed cheeks and red lips, this occurs in carbon monoxide poisoning, and convulsions also in this case. So what are the action that has to be taken? Turn off the cabin heating. Open cabin ventilators. Consider using oxygen if available. Land as soon as possible, and medical aid is needed. Okay. Next comes hyperventilation. This is the over breathing. So if you take a lot of oxygen, etc., hyperventilation is possible. Well, this occurs mainly due to stress, right? And over concentration, fear, anxiety, all those things are the reasons why hyperventilation occurs. So best way is to avoid, okay, in pilots the best way to avoid is good training, and in case of normal people like passengers, they can be made to focus on some other thing and don't think about whatever anxiety they're having, or if they are fearing from something, then take off their mind from it. And then there are other things also. First we will see the causes. So as I already discussed, intense concentration on difficult tasks, fear, anxiety, all those things are the reasons, the causes of hyperventilation at low altitude. Okay, and symptoms are dizziness, tingling, visual disturbance, hot and cold sensation, anxiety, loss of muscular coordination, increased heart rate, spasm, loss of consciousness, cramping, spasm on the hand and feet, cold clammy skin, and paleness. Remember, cold clammy skin is a symptom of hyperventilation. Now, for treatment of hyperventilation, if you are flying above 10,000 feet, in that case hypoxia can be the case. So you want more oxygen. That is why you will be taking more number of breaths, deep breaths. So if in 4 or 5 breaths it does not improve, then you can try to take more breaths, 10 to 12. Okay. But if you are flying below 10,000 Ks, then 10,000 feet, then hypoxia cannot be the case. In that case, you know, which we discussed, anxieties, fear, or something like that, all those things can be the reason. In that case, what you can do is try to calm the person down and take their mind off from that anxiety. And also in some cases where there is reduction of carbon dioxide level, so that can also be the case of hyperventilation. In that case, what is done is, you must have seen in some movies or something that a paper bag is given in which they are made to blow and then breathe from that paper bag only. So that can be done. In that, the carbon dioxide level can be maintained in the body, right? So that is all about hyperventilation. So smoking, normally it should be avoided, but for a person who smokes like 1 packet a day, it reduces their capacity to carry oxygen by 5 to 8% as compared to the normal person who's not smoking, okay, a non-smoker. And then he may experience hypoxia at lower level altitude, around 7,000 feet, and is more susceptible to carbon monoxide poisoning also. So this is all the things that happens. And then they also are more susceptible to other major diseases or for dysfunctions like lung cancers, any other circulatory problems, etc. Okay, now coming to the alcohol. Fine. So alcohol consumption, again, you know that alcohol acts as a depressant and it depresses the functions of the body. It calms you down very much. So it is also not very good for flying. In that case, there are certain limitations to your alcohol consumption that is given. So at least 24 hours gap should be maintained between your last drink and the takeoff time. And then recommended maximum alcohol intake is given. For men it is 5 units daily or 21 units per week, and women it is 3 units daily and 14 units per week. Unit can be half a pint. So 1 unit is half a pint of beer or a standard glass of wine or one measure of spirit. Okay. So blood pressure. So this is the pressure exerted by the blood on the walls of the main artery. So as we have already discussed, the blood pressure, the pressure that is measured is the systolic and the diastolic pressure. The systolic pressure is the one which is when the muscles contracts, and diastolic when the muscle relaxes. So for the normal person, the BP is 120 for systolic and 80 is for diastolic. This is for the normal blood pressure. This should be maintained. Okay, and high blood pressure or hypertension is a major cause of unfitness for pilots. So this has to be taken care by the pilots. Causes of blood pressure is again taking too much stress and obesity, right? And smoking, age, lack of exercise, all these are the causes. Okay, now coming to donating blood. So wait 48 hours before flying after donating blood, obviously, because it takes time to of several hours, and sometimes in some people it takes several days also to recover from the blood loss by donating the blood. Okay, so it is advised that at least 48 hours gap should be maintained. Now a very interesting and important topic is cabin pressurization, in which we'll be discussing about decompression. So what is decompression? Decompression basically means lowering of pressure. If the pressure is lowered, we call it as decompression. Okay, there are two types of decompressions: rapid decompression and slow decompression. In both the cases, pressure is lowering, but in rapid decompression it becomes very rapid, and all of a sudden it reduces, and in slow decompression it happens up to the same extent, but it happens slowly. Okay, so as you know that the pressure decreases as the altitude increases. So as we climb higher and higher, the pressure is decreased, and if you are traveling in an aircraft, the aircraft inside, the interior of the aircraft, it maintains the suitable amount of pressure that is required for normal functioning, and that is 6,000 to 8,000 feet. So any pressure equivalent to 6,000 to 8,000 feet pressure, like what I mean to say is the pressure that you will be facing in 6,000 8,000 feet from the ground level, that is what is maintained inside the cabin. Fine. Above 25,000 feet in unpressurized cabin, you will be coming across bends. Now we'll be discussing what bends it, but 18,000 feet ASL, above sea level, atmospheric pressure is half as that of the mean sea level. Remember this can be asked in the question. Okay, so talking about decompression sickness and bends. The lowering of pressure has many major effects in the body. Henry's law explains the occurrence of decompression sickness. So according to this law, at constant temperature, the concentration of gas dissolved in the fluid with which it does not combine chemically is almost directly proportional to the partial pressure of the gas at the surface of the fluid. So what it means to say is the nitrogen, as you know, the blood has nitrogen also, it binds with nitrogen also, but at some normal conditions. So if there is a case of decompression, in that case the nitrogen that is dissolved in the body fluids, they comes out, and they comes out as a small bubbles, and these bubbles, believe me, they are very much dangerous. They are actually, what happens is these bubbles, they travel on the inside the body where the blood flows, and they might get accumulated in some joint areas or some other areas, and they cause severe pain. I mean, very much strong pain they cause, and that is a very bad situation, and that requires treatment. Nothing can be done in that case by the pilot, or by descending, or by increasing the altitude, or anything else. The only thing that the pilot needs to do in that case is immediately make arrangement to land as soon as possible, and ask for medical assistance, and that person has to go a medical treatment. Okay. These are similar things. Chokes, skin manifestations you can experience, neurological symptoms, circulatory shock. Don't fly at least 12 hours after experiencing a rapid decompression. Okay, so treatment is, you can keep yourself warm and on 100% oxygen. Immediate descent is required, and land as soon as possible. Medical assistance. Diving and flying gap should be kept at least 24 hours for the same reason. Chokes, let me explain. So shortness of breath and feeling of burning, gnawing or piercing, that is known as the chokes. Okay, fine. Next we come to incapacitation. Incapacitation is the risk of seizure. So people, that can be crew members also, they experience seizures. That is incapacitation. There are two kinds, obvious and subtle or insidious incapacitation. So in obvious incapacitation, there is a loss of consciousness, mental, physical strength is all gone, functions are all stopped, and you know that there is an incapacitation occurring in that case. And then causes of obvious incapacitation can be cardiac arrest, myocardial infection, intracerebral hemorrhage. I know these are very big words, but you just have to keep in mind that epilepsy, cardiac arrest, all those things can be a reason of obvious incapacitation. But in case of subtle incapacitation, the main thing is that the person might not know that they are having incapacitation, and still they might continue to do. So in this case, consciousness is not gone, so but they are partially or even temporarily, they might be losing their physical and mental functions, and that is a very dangerous situation. Okay, so they might not know that they are having incapacitation and then continue to work. That can be much more dangerous. Okay, causes of this can be excessive drinking, temporary hypoglycemia, reduction of blood pressure. I won't be telling you the big words of biology, but just keep in mind that in this case, partial paralysis is also possible, and all those things they cause a danger to normal functioning. Okay, now discussing about the fits and faints. First, coming to epilepsy. So epilepsy is where the brain's activity is disturbed. Okay, electrical activity of the brain is disturbed, right? And you may experience seizures and loss of consciousness, fits, etc. can be experienced. There are two types, grand mal epilepsy and petit mal epilepsy. So in grand mal epilepsy, you will lose consciousness, and in petit you might not. So this is the difference between both of them. Now faints. Faint is completely losing your consciousness. Okay, the causes can be standing up very quickly, okay, and then sudden shock, loss of blood from any accident, and lack of food or fluid and other physiological stress. So syncope is something in which there is sudden loss of consciousness and where the blood flow in the brain decreases. This is syncope. So this is important. Remember this syncope, what it is. Okay, now we will be moving to the next portion. Next portion is in the next video, so please move on to the next video to continue this topic.